everybody. Welcome to Scott Fox After 9. Today is Wednesday, the 4th of February. I'm not sure when you're listening to this, but I want to let you know where I'm at contextually in case you happen to be listening to this in the future. I also want to let you know that as we get closer to the Super Bowl this weekend, Seattle versus New England, I am going to be talking a lot about Super Bowl tomorrow. In particular, Super Bowl betting. And I don't just mean on who's going to have the most completed passes or the most rushing yards. I'm going to be talking about some of the prop bets too. The coin toss, how long the anthem's going to be, things like that in tomorrow's Scott Fox After 9. So that'll be a fairly lighter episode. I hope you can check that out. I do have a special guest on that one, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So check into tomorrow's episode when it comes out. Today is going to be a little heavier, though. I always try and warn you if it's going to be a heavy episode, and I think today is the day to do it. I'm going to be talking about the Epstein files. Did a lot of political stuff earlier this week. Heard about Pierre Poilievre's speech, which, you know what? I heard clips of it again yesterday on social media. I don't think Pierre Poilievre's getting enough credit for that speech that he gave at the convention last Friday. Very, very inspirational, full of hope for the future, and laying out a path for how Canada can get back to prosperity and the middle class can start to thrive again. If you didn't watch Pierre's speech, you can go back and listen to my Monday episode. I've got all the highlights curated for you. And it's a real easy listen. It's got a little bit of commentary in there for context. So check that out if you didn't hear Pierre's speech. Yesterday, I did some question period and so on and so forth. And today, I'm going to have to get a little bit darker. As every day goes on, I'm reading more and more from the 3 million files that were released as part of the Epstein file drop that came down late last week. People have been flagging certain things for me, and I wasn't really sure what to do. You know, there's no protocol for how to, as a responsible member of the media, and I'm going to point that out because what I'm about to talk about, you sure as hell are not hearing on the CBC or any of our other mainstream media outlets. And I don't know why, unless the cover-up continues. But for a very, very long time, people have suspected that very rich and well-connected individuals were using their position and their money and their power to exploit people who did not have the same footing. In particular, women and children. And not just women and children, by the way, but that was the in particular moment because there were some... man, I don't even know where to go with this. I just finished reading a file that's just absolutely gross. I'm going to talk about the Epstein files today. And some of this is going to be really hard to hear. But you know what? Unless somebody flags it, the vast majority of the public is not going to hear this stuff. They're not going down the rabbit hole on social media. Until now, many people have been quite content to just assume life is fine and everything as we know it is as we know it. But that's not true anymore. Now that these files have come out, the Epstein files, we're learning a lot about some of the things that were done to kids and done to people who were being trafficked. There were a lot of people that were exploited, and frankly, my gut hurts from reading some of this stuff. So there's going to be more to come out. But for now, I think what I want to do is just read you a couple of highlights from the Epstein files. Then I'm going to play some audio for you. You're going to hear from both Bill and Melinda Gates coming up in just a few minutes, and I've got a laundry list of celebrities who gave some weird interviews over the past number of years, and now that we know what we know from the Epstein files, those weird interviews actually make a lot more sense, and it may have been a confession, it may have been a cry for help, I don't know. But I'm going to play it all for you. I got to lay this all out because, like I said, the vast majority of people are not going to go down the rabbit hole. They just want to be spoon-fed whatever's in the Epstein files. And if they even want to know, I think everybody should want to know because we have been lied to for a very, very long time. And a lot of people have done horrible things with complete impunity. They thought they were going to get away with it. And to be honest with you, so far, it seems like they might. Because no charges have been laid, and there are some very suspicious redactions in the Epstein files. Let me jump into it now. I know that was a lot of preamble, but there really is no protocol for how to do this. So I'm just going to jump into it, and I'm going to try and chart a path and set an example for the other podcasters and the other members of the media that you don't need to be afraid to talk about what's in the Epstein files here, especially because it's out there in the public domain, and people are discovering different things at different times, and I think it's important that we all know what happened. And I don't have the full thing yet. I mean, it's 3 million pages. Every day, more and more stuff comes out, but I'm going to just put the spotlight on a few things to try and prove a bit of a point here. This is an email that was sent to Jeffrey Epstein from an redacted name. I'm not sure why this name is redacted, but this is the email to Epstein. Thank you for a fun night. Your little girl was a little naughty. Sent from my iPhone. There's no identifying characteristics about the victim there. So why is the person who sent that email to Jeffrey Epstein redacted? Why don't we know who it was that had a fun night with a little girl who was a little naughty? Why don't we know that? Let me read you another one. This is in regard to torture. This is an email to this is an email from Jeffrey Epstein to somebody else. Again, the name redacted. Where are you? Are you okay? I loved the torture video. Who got tortured? We know there's videos, and we know that the Department of Justice is not going to put the videos out because it could identify victims. But they show clear and obvious crimes happening. And if we've got the email that lines up with the video, I don't understand why people are not in handcuffs right now. Here is another one. This one from Martin Novak to Ghislaine Maxwell. Dear Ghislaine, many thanks for your amazing hospitality. I'm so very sorry I caused you so much worry and that I spoiled the day. I am happy that I did not kill anybody. My perspective of life has changed somehow. Lots of love. Martin. Okay. All right. Here's another one. This one is from Hillary Clinton to Barack Obama. Dear Barack, when we began the pizza arrangement, I thought we were going to be more careful than this. Operating from the White House is not what I originally had in mind. Remember that the hot dogs can come, but if you make a spectacle out of it, they will be our downfall. That will be our downfall. Please know I'm speaking as a friend. You are the president and can do as you like, but I have to say I think it would be wiser to restrict this activity to our predetermined locations. Let me know what everyone thinks. We can vote on it if you like. Thanks, Hillary. There's some code to a lot of this. Code, as I understand it so far, as it's been explained to me, is pizza indicates a young girl. Hot dog indicates a young boy. When ice cream is referenced, that's a male prostitute. There's a whole language that these people have been speaking, thinking that they were being clever and they'd never get caught. Here's another one. The Epstein files suggest Joe Biden hasn't been the president or wasn't the president. Let me read you a little bit of this. Maritime law is coming, and the selling and owning of humans and human souls is over. There is factual evidence on the methods of operation for how law and legal proceedings will work next. There are some other parts here that are unredacted, but it finishes with, Biden is not your current president. The mask malfunctions on Biden are getting worse each day. On purpose. This will end badly for, redacted, who is posing with an effing clone on Facebook. The dude playing Biden ain't Biden. Real Biden was an evil, sick, angry man who abused children, including his own. That's an actor with an effing mask. We've been over this 1,000 times. It's not going to change. Biden is shot. 2019. Firing squad. Wow. This is out there. And whether it's true or not, it's out there. And this is the information that people are consuming. Now the job, and those are just a few of the ones that I picked out from what I read. Some of the ones that were a little safer to read. Some of the ones that I wouldn't throw up as I was reading them. Those were just a few that I picked out for this episode. Just to give you a little indication of some of the things that are coming out. It really is not a stretch to think that these people were trafficking young girls, and in some cases, infants, babies. And they thought they would get away with it. And so far they have. At the heart of all of this, Jeffrey Epstein. What do we know about Jeffrey Epstein? Well, we were told that he killed himself in his cell. That might not be true. There's a lot of people now pointing to one of the documents in the Epstein files. It was a note from a guard at the prison where Jeffrey Epstein was being held. He apparently, and I have his name, but I'm not going to say it in the pod because I don't want to dox him, and I'm not sure what his status is, and I can't independently verify it, so I'm going to go off of the verification that others online have put forth. But they suggest Jeffrey Epstein was wheeled out of the prison the day before he was found dead, and he was in a wheelchair. Well, if that's the case, who is that person or who is that body in the autopsy? Looks like somebody strangled themselves. Is that possibly not Jeffrey Epstein? And is it possible Jeffrey Epstein is still alive? There's a lot of people who believe that that is the case. Now, the director of the FBI, Kash Patel, he swears Jeffrey Epstein is dead and he killed himself in his prison cell. Let me play just a little bit of a recent interview on Fox News with Kash Patel.
You told me when we last talked, this is 8 months ago when we did an interview at the FBI in Quantico, that you were convinced that Epstein killed himself in jail. Today, 8 months after that, are you still convinced?
Yes.
100%.
Yes, sir.
Everything I knew about Kash Patel before he became the director of the FBI is that he did not believe that. Now, though, he has access to information that the average person does not have. Very few people on earth have access to the amount of information that Kash Patel has. Does he really believe Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, or does he just not have enough evidence to suggest otherwise? Well, there is a guard at the prison who swears Jeffrey Epstein was wheeled out of there in a wheelchair the day before he killed himself. Who did that? And who would have the power to take somebody out of a prison on a weekend when they normally don't do releases unless they're ordered by a judge? Who would have the power to do that? It has to be some very well-connected individuals, and we know Jeffrey Epstein was very well-connected. One of the things that came out of the Epstein files is an accusation that Bill Gates contacted Jeffrey Epstein and asked him to arrange for antibiotics that Bill Gates could give to his wife because Bill reportedly contracted an STD from Russian prostitutes when he was with Jeffrey Epstein. He wanted to slip those drugs to Melinda Gates, his wife at the time. Bill Gates has done a new interview. I'm going to play you about 2 minutes of this one. Listen to Bill Gates denying everything.
Every minute I spent with him, I regret and I apologize that I did that.
Part of that issue of trust brings me to Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know what your relationship with him was.
Yeah, I met Jeffrey in 2011. So over a period of 3 years, I had a number of dinners with him. The focus was always, he knew a lot of very rich people, and he was saying he could get them to give money to global health. In retrospect, that was a dead end, and I've said many times, but I'll say again, I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him.
You've no doubt seen the allegations, including some of them from the last 24 to 48 hours. Are they true?
No, apparently Jeffrey wrote an email to himself. That email was never sent. The email is, false. So I don't know what his thinking was there. Was he trying to attack me in some way? But, it just reminds me, every minute I spent with him, I regret and I, apologize that I did that.
The problem is some of the things that he has sent and some of the information about other people that has come up in those files has been true. Why would he do this and say this about you, do you think?
It's factually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Is it frustrating to you, given what you've said, that this is now happening?
Not really. I mean, people should, hold people who are successful to a very high bar. And so, it's, as these documents come out, they're going to be closely scrutinized.
That was just a little bit of the Bill Gates interview that was released late last night or early this morning. Let's hear from his ex-wife, Melinda Gates. She too did an interview as these files started to drop. Melinda Gates she seems to be mortified. She seems to be livid, and she seems to have no connection whatsoever anymore to her ex-husband. Here is a little bit of Melinda Gates talking about this latest release of Epstein files and documents and how they pertain to her ex, Bill Gates.
No girl should ever be put in the situation that they were put in by Epstein and whatever was going on with all of the various people around him. No girl. I mean, it's beyond heartbreaking, right? I remember being those ages those girls were. I remember my daughters being those ages, right? So, for me, it's personally hard whenever those details come up, right? Because brings back memories of some very, very painful times in my marriage. But I have moved on from that. I purposely pushed it away and I moved on. I'm in a really unexpected, beautiful place in my life. So whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
Well,
and I am so happy to be away from all the muck.
I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles.
Just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right? And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right? And so for me, it's just sadness for, you know, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad. And it's kind of like, at least for me, I've been able to move on in life. And I hope there's some justice for those now women, right? We see them standing up in front of microphones in D.C. What they went through is just unimaginable, I think.
Not making any direct accusations of her own, but either way, you can tell there's something going on there. You can absolutely tell something happened. She knows something, and I don't expect her to say anything, especially when it could possibly potentially implicate her too. I mean, she was with Bill at the time, in marriage anyway. I'm not saying physically. Good God. This is horrific. As I read through these documents, I mean, forget what happened between consenting adults. Those are consenting adults. When it was children, when it was babies, they did some horrific, messed up stuff here. I only just read you a couple of them. And you know what? By the way, not everybody who's in on this thing with kids is implicated in the Epstein files. It appears there was more than one person providing services. Let me play you a few pieces of audio. These are weird things, and I'm not suggesting that this means anything. I just want you to hear them. Here is a montage of celebrities. Keep in mind what I told you earlier. Pizza, young girl. Hot dog, young boy. Ice cream, male prostitute. There's a whole code. This is Katy Perry.
How old are you, son? Teen. You're in the double digits world? It's like really important. Pizza parties with pop stars often? No. Okay.
Pizza parties with pop stars? Ooh, you're 10, are you? Okay. Hey, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
I eat children. How old are you?
12.
Oh, okay. Only to 10.
Okay,
that's good.
That was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson there. How about Adam Sandler with Ellen DeGeneres?
Her parties are incredible at her house, too.
Yeah, she does have good parties, and she makes good pizza as well.
She makes great pizza,
Wonderful pizza. I've had
Okay, again, doesn't necessarily mean anything, but weird thing to say, right? How about Jennifer Aniston?
I've had pizza. Girl after my own heart. Do we love a pizza or what? We love a pizza. It's so much fun.
Okay. All right. Hey, maybe they were talking about pizza. That's entirely possible. Seems a little weird though, doesn't it? You know what? There is a lot of stuff that is coming up about satanic rituals. There's a suggestion that some of these people actually worship satanic idols. And is it true? I mean, I have no way of knowing that. but it's out there in the public realm. There are people discussing it. Let me play for you an old video. Actually, it's not even that old, a few years old. Megan Fox.
Just a few drops, but yes, we do consume each other's blood on occasion for ritual purposes only. It is used for a reason, and it is controlled where it's like, let's shed a few drops of blood and each drink it. He's much more haphazard and hectic and chaotic, where he's willing to just like cut his chest open with broken glass and be like, take my soul, let me bleed on you. It doesn't not happen, let me tell you. Maybe not exactly like that, but a version of that has happened many times.
Messed up, right? Do you remember when Corey Feldman did this famous daytime TV interview? It was on The View, and everybody wrote off Corey Feldman as just a crazy person.
I'm saying that there are people that were the people that did this to both me and Corey that are still working. They're still out there, and they're some of the richest, most powerful people in this business.
And they are.
And they do not want me saying what I'm saying right now.
Are you saying that they're pedophiles?
Yes.
And that they're still in this business?
Yes.
That's what, and that's what you're saying in your book. When you talk,
you're damaging an entire industry.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to say that it's a very important, serious topic.
You're damaging an entire industry.
Barbara Walters shaming him for besmirching an entire industry. But is it true? You know, that hard-hitting journalist Barbara Walters didn't really ask a lot of questions, did she? How about Ariana Grande? Not that long ago, she was on a red carpet, seemed very confused, and a lot of people thought, wow, she must be on drugs or something. There's a little bit of music behind this one, so it might be a little harder to hear, but try and listen to Ariana Grande.
You know what? They did the Brighter Days memory erasure treatment to me, so I'm having trouble remembering the details. They're foggy because at the Brighter Days clinic they do the memory erasure, you know? The memory erasure, they erase my memory. It's a little foggy, but
Who had Ariana Grande's memory erased? And what treatment is that? What clinic is it that's offering that? Why would that happen? Do you remember that time that Britney Spears sat down and did an interview? And again, everybody wrote off Britney Spears as she's just crazy. Britney Spears talked about seeing someone who looked like a reptile. By the way, that is a conspiracy theory. I'm not giving any credibility to it, but there's a lot of people who believe that there is a species of reptiles that are wearing masks. I know it sounds crazy. I know it does. There's a lot of people who believe that there is a reptilian population on Earth that hides in plain sight, and they wear very sophisticated, advanced masks. Britney Spears says she saw one.
I went with this one guy, and he just, he looked like a lizard. I was so scared. He was sitting beside me, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, holy shit, he looks just like a lizard, and I had to get up. It was really bad.
So you just left? Wow.
Crazy, right? People were laughing like, oh my God, crazy Britney Spears must be on drugs again. Or is it possible that that conspiracy theory was true? I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm asking questions that maybe you're asking yourself. Maybe. People have been trying to talk about what's going on in Hollywood for a very long time. Look up past interviews with Mel Gibson, Jim Caviezel. Roseanne Barr, completely canceled because she wanted to blow the roof off of this scandal that was happening in Hollywood. Listen to Roseanne talking to Tucker Carlson.
You know they eat babies. That is not bullshit. It's true.
So it's not just the dogs and the cats, not just the pets.
It's not just the dogs and the cats. They're full-on vampires. And everybody still thinks I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. They're full-on vampires. They love the taste of human flesh, and they drink human blood. They do. By the time we go in to vote for Trump, that he will open up everybody's eyes and they will stop pretending to be asleep. You know what they say? You can't wake people up that are pretending to be asleep, but I pray to God, please wake up even those who are pretending to be asleep with the irrefutable truth of what the worst people on this planet are really up to. They are really up to that. They're doing it. There are so many victims. There are so many victims. victims.
Okay, that's good enough. That's all I need to hear from that. That's Roseanne Barr. Again, I want to stress, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. And what's in the Epstein files does not necessarily mean that somebody is guilty of what's written there. There's a lot of different things that need to be done for someone to be found guilty. And in some of these cases, I don't know, a lawyer might have a hard time proving it. But how many different things do we need to see to start connecting the dots of what's really going on here? Let me play this for you. I want to play a little interview clip here, or it's actually a news conference clip from a woman named Kathy O'Brien. Kathy O'Brien is one of the victims who came forward. She takes this a step further. Listen very carefully to what Kathy had to say. This is an older video. I'm going to guess by the look of it about 10, 15 years, but maybe less. Either way, this is one of the victims and what they say happened.
This most dangerous game, as they referred to it, was a matter of human hunting. And when a mind control slave such as myself was stripped of clothes and turned loose in the woods, I was then hunted by George Bush, Dick Cheney, and Bill Clinton, among others. But they were the main ones. I do not believe that it was necessary for them to have subjected me to this form of trauma. There were so many other traumas going on at the time. My mind was already prime conditioned for mind control program. So I really don't understand it, except for the fact that they found great pleasure in this form of human hunting. And they took it from particular military maneuvers. And
which base we're talking about when you was recalling the situation when Clinton was president and Mr. Bush? Which airspace?
There's a little place called Lampe, Missouri, that's just across the Arkansas line. Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas at that time, and his whole operation that was Mena, Arkansas was the main hub for, was bringing cocaine into this CIA compound.
They were hunting people. Just think about that. Does that make sense? Well, I mean, if you would treat any other human like less than a human, then maybe that does add up. These people had no problem doing horrible things to people when they were unconscious or incapacitated. Is it possible that in the same way that people hunt animals, whether it be for food or for sport, that these people decided to take it to the next level? We got some dispensable humans here. Let's hunt them. Strip them naked. Send them out into the forest. We'll see if we can catch any of them. These people use their fame, their money, their position to exploit children. And it wasn't just sex. There was torture. There was murder. There were assaults. Feel free to do the deep dive or just keep checking into this pod. This is not something I want to spend a whole ton of time talking about, but I got to bring this to the light here because, you know, it's out there now and people are talking about this. And some people are really, really hurt by this. Some people are raging mad. Some people, I don't even want to speak for other people on that. I won't even speculate anymore about how others are feeling. But this is out there, and these are serious accusations. Yesterday on CNN, Senator Bernie Sanders.
There is a growing sense that you have a small number of elite, of very, very rich people who hang out with each other, who really see themselves as above the law. Their world is not my world, it's not your world, it's not ordinary people's worlds. They live in a special world. And I worry that what you're seeing now in our country today is you got oligarchs with incredible money. They also live in a different world. And I think that is why the American people are responding, so strongly. They go through a red light, they get stopped, they get fined. These guys do terrible things. That's okay. You're rich and you're powerful.
That is how the average person feels, right? The average person is treated like that. We have to follow the law. The people making the laws, the rich, the powerful, they don't have to follow the laws. I mean, basic follow the law. You can't kill people. They did. You can't hurt somebody else. They did. There are so many people connected to this. Why was the new mayor of New York City, when he was a child, photographed with Jeffrey Epstein? It's very weird that someone who had a connection as a kid to Epstein ended up being mayor of New York. Why are there pictures of a very, very young Volodymyr Zelensky, now the leader of Ukraine, with Jeffrey Epstein? Why is that? They're out there. I just saw a recently resurfaced photo of JonBenet Ramsey Lo and behold, it's true. When you zoom in, who's in the background of that photo? Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's right hand. There's a lot of things that still need to happen. There's a lot of dots that need to be connected. But it's time for everybody, and I mean everybody, all of us, the regular people who pay our taxes and follow the law, to demand that there are prosecutions. Yesterday in the White House, President Trump made one of the dumbest comments I think I've heard Trump say. It's time to move on from the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. It's time to move on to other things. He doesn't want us to keep talking about the Epstein stuff. And frankly, while I've seen some evidence that might indicate he did nothing wrong, I've seen a lot of other stuff that certainly suggests he did do something wrong. Here's that clip from yesterday in the White House.
Of Epstein, I will say this. A reporter named Wolf and Epstein conspired. This just came out yesterday in the millions of pages of documents, how crazy this is, conspired against me in order to fight like hell to make sure I lose the election. That's the only thing that was mentioned about me. Now, about Democrats, some really bad stuff, but about me, that Wolf, whoever Wolf is, he wrote a book, a couple of books, and Epstein conspired against me. Did you know that, Mr. Senator?
I did know that.
They conspired against me, so I lose the election, or worse. So that takes care of Epstein as far as Trump is concerned. But you got a lot of Democrats out there that are very much involved with Epstein. But I'll be honest with you, you got to get back to running the country too. Millions and millions every week. You know, when Epstein was alive, nobody cared about him. When he's dead, they care about him. But it's really a Democrat problem. It's not a Republican, it's a Democrat problem. The only problem Republicans have is that we have to get back to, number one, running our country, and then number two, very importantly, letting the public know what a great job we're doing. We have the greatest economy in the history of the world.
I'm going to cut him off there. No, we're not just going to drop this. What the hell happened here? Where are these victims? That Zorro Ranch down in the States. Somebody needs to get some ground penetrating radar and start looking for bodies there. This island that Jeffrey Epstein had, the Virgin Islands. Somebody has got to go and with a fine-tooth comb, rip apart every inch of land on that island and see if we can find some evidence here. People died. It's not okay. We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to find out who did what, and they need to be held accountable for the crimes they committed. I know that this was hard to listen to in some cases. I'm sorry. But again, I feel like this is something that regular, run-of-the-mill, law-abiding citizens like you and I, right now, we're basically slaves. Our only job is to keep paying taxes so that the rich and wealthy can continue to profit and they can turn around and do stuff like this. I want to end this segment, this part of this, by again reminding everybody, just because someone's name is in the Epstein files does not necessarily mean they did something wrong. Some of the accusations are just accusations at the moment, and they haven't necessarily been proven. But let's see more transparency. It's not enough to just release these files and tell us roughly what happened. We need to know who did it. If there's an email, and I read one of them right at the beginning of this pod, if there's an email with a redacted name that has no identifying characteristics for the victim, there's no reason for that name to be redacted. It really seems like people did horrific, horrible things to children, and it's not okay. They need to be held accountable. And I feel like I'm just repeating myself at this point, so I'm going to move on to another thing that's not nearly as heavy. But the Epstein stuff is something that I'm still very interested in. I'm going to use my BS meter as best I can to bring you things that I think are going somewhere, that I think are reliable, or that I think actually happened. But again, I don't know. I don't want to smear anybody's name, but the DOJ put these files out there. They're the ones who redacted everything, and for no good reason, nearest I can tell. So they're the ones who are going to have to explain if there's people in here who have been wrongfully accused. But again, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I think everybody needs to open their eyes to the possibility that maybe we've been lied to for a very long time. It's no longer a conspiracy theory. Does the Pizzagate scandal, that conspiracy theory from years ago, does it still seem like a conspiracy theory? Or based on what you've heard, what you've read about the Epstein files, is it now totally plausible that they were trafficking children out of a pizza shop in Washington, D.C.? Seems probable to me. Seems plausible anyway. And I don't think we should just write these things off anymore as conspiracy theories. I think they deserve to be investigated. Like I said, though, I'm going to move on. I'm not going to get political in this episode, but I want to play some nice things for you. Yesterday, Prime Minister Carney introduced former Prime Minister Stephen Harper at the unveiling of Stephen Harper's brand new portrait that is going to hang in the House of Commons. Prime ministers get a portrait done. It's just one of the ways that we honor them and thank them for their service. Yesterday, Stephen Harper got his. You'll hear from former Prime Minister Harper in just a sec. Here's a little bit of Prime Minister Carney in a fairly nonpartisan way introducing PM Harper.
As those who have known him privately can attest, Stephen Harper has never been drawn to spectacle, but always to service. He served as Prime Minister of Canada for nearly a decade, the 6th longest tenure in our history, leaving an extensive record of policy and legislative accomplishments. In a political climate increasingly buffeted by noise, he brought composure, intellect, and decisiveness to public life. Qualities that helped see Canada through one of the most perilous times since the Great Depression. In autumn of 2008, with the global financial markets in free fall, credit markets frozen, global banks failing, his government's actions were decisive. Our institutions remained trusted. Canada stood strong. Stephen Harper was and is a conviction politician. But he was also, when circumstances warranted, a pragmatist. Came to Ottawa as a balanced budget conservative, believing rightly I got to a comma, not a period. Believing rightly.
I just want to give Prime Minister Carney credit here because he recognized that this was to be a nonpartisan moment, and he did a lot of great nonpartisan things. He is actually getting much better at giving speeches, and I'll give him credit for that. He has improved greatly in the last year. And that was a funny comment. A whole room erupted when he pointed out we had a prime minister that believed in balanced budgets. Even Carney started laughing because he will never, no matter what he does, he could do everything right for the rest of his term, and Canada will not have a balanced budget for a very long time. So I thought that was a nice, lighthearted moment from Prime Minister Carney. Let's just wrap it up with a couple more remarks from him, and then we'll get to Prime Minister Harper.
That government should live within their means. You like that as well. But when the financial crisis struck, he did not let ideology prevent him from doing what was necessary, running deficits for 5 years to support the Canadian economy through the worst global downturn in generations. This was not a betrayal of principles. It was an expression of a deeper principle. The purpose of sound fiscal management is to serve Canadians, not the other way around.
I hope that after hearing the remarks there from Prime Minister Carney, which nearest I can tell were absolutely accurate, I thought that was a very nice thing of him to do, and just a real nice tribute overall from the current Prime Minister to a former Prime Minister, especially considering they are polar opposites on the political spectrum. Very, very good by Prime Minister Carney. Hopefully, if you're a Liberal, you can now acknowledge we had it pretty good under Stephen Harper. No matter how you compare it, what metric you use, Canada was in a much better spot under Stephen Harper. Now, Mark Carney is coming in as Prime Minister and inherited a ton of baggage from Justin Trudeau, who was the biggest mistake this country ever made. Hopefully now, with a little bit of hindsight and enough distance between when Harper was Prime Minister and now, hopefully people who maybe even didn't like him at the time can look back and at least acknowledge that as far as leading our country through crisis, Stephen Harper left the country better than he found it, and that's all we can ask from any prime minister. Here is former Prime Minister Stephen Harper.
I'll just leave it at that. But friends, I may be the subject of the portrait, but I hope neither it nor this ceremony is about me. Instead, today is my opportunity to express my heartfelt gratitude to the countless thousands of people that make it possible for a Prime Minister to serve. I want to recognize so many members of my caucus and cabinet who are here today. They were, I firmly believe, the finest any Prime Minister has served with since our Confederation in 1867. Today is a chance to thank the public servants who help flesh out and implement the policies and programs of the government. And friends, today is a chance for me to again pay my personal tribute to the members of Canada's military and our veterans, those who have answered the call that makes our free and sovereign country possible. Above all else, today is my special opportunity to thank those many thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of Canadians who welcomed us into their communities from coast to coast to coast for nearly a decade. To have visited with Canadians as Prime Minister is the greatest privilege of all. In closing, I want to say this. I will repeat that. I sincerely hope that mine is just one of many portraits of Prime Ministers from both parties that will continue to be hung here for decades and centuries to come. But that will require that in these perilous times, both parties, whatever their other differences, come together against external forces that threaten our independence and against domestic policies that threaten our unity. We must preserve Canada, this country handed down to us by Providence, preserved by our ancestors and held in trust for our descendants. We must make any sacrifice necessary to preserve the independence and the unity of this blessed land. We all want Canada to be the true north, a true north, as strong and as free as it can be, in every way that counts, the best country in the world. Only then can we say that we have been true to this great country. Friends, you've done me a high honor today. I truly appreciate it. Merci beaucoup. God bless all of you. God bless Canada.
You heard some cuts there. That was me cutting out the French for you so that you would only hear the English part. Although I think this podcast is available in French, actually. I'm told that it can be translated. I'm not quite sure how that works, but if you figured it out, great. Friends, one of the messages that you will hear from Stephen Harper is one of bipartisanship. Liberals and conservatives need to work together to deal with the threat facing Canada. And we are facing a threat on many, many different fronts, not the least of which is the threat of economic instability. That was our own doing. We're in pretty bad shape financially. And one of the only ways that we can solve that is, number one, get a pipeline built so that we can get our product out to market. That's number one. Number two, we need to work out a deal with the Americans. In the spirit of bipartisanship, a conservative member of parliament has announced he's going to Washington. He's going to meet with Vice President J.D. Vance. I'm talking about, I believe he's from Oshawa. He's one of the Durham members of Parliament, Jamil Javani. Jamil is great. Jamil is well-spoken, and he is a very good friend of U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. They went to school together. They're in the same fantasy football pool together. I've talked about Jamil a number of times on this pod, and it looks like he is finally ready to get moving. He's going to go down to Washington, and he is going to try and get the conversation started so that we can work out a deal with the Americans. And me personally, I still think that that's our best option. With the amount of trade that we do with the Americans, it makes sense that we would work out a deal with them. But of course, we haven't really looked for a deal with the Americans. We've actually sabotaged it a couple of times ourselves. Jamil is going to, in a bipartisan way, try and fix that. I want to play just a little bit of the video that he released yesterday so you know what's going on.
I'm on my way to Washington, D.C., and I want to explain to you, the Canadian people, exactly why, because you're probably going to hear about it. I'm going to Washington because I want to help Prime Minister Mark Carney be successful in negotiating a trade deal with the United States. Now, that might sound counterintuitive because I am a principled conservative. He is our liberal prime minister. But the reality is that this is not a partisan issue. CUSMA and trade with the United States is so important to the Canadian economy and to our future as an independent, self-reliant nation that conservatives and liberals don't need to fight over this at all. In fact, we need to work together. The leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, has said as much. He has offered help from conservatives to the Liberal government on this issue, and I'm acting on that. In my opinion, this is not about posturing or politics. This is about business and workers. This is about unions and entrepreneurs. This is about whether we have a growing economy with stability for investment and opportunity for our young people, or whether our economy is perpetually in a state of uncertainty. I am kind of sick and tired of the politics on this issue. I'm sick and tired of the posturing and the virtue signaling. I'm sick and tired of people being worried about what someone's going to call you on Facebook or on social media comments, what the media might say. The reality is that there are people suffering right now in our country because of the state of our economy. And in as much as we want Canada to be as strong and independent as possible, the reality is that 3/4 of our exports go to the United States. And if we want an economy that is good for our young people, if we want an economy that supports public services for seniors in our communities, we've got to work with the Americans. There are people who've been running around this country for over a year now, talking about their elbows, flapping about. I just don't find that impressive. I don't find it serious. I take this issue seriously. And as a guy who went to law school in the United States and has a strong network there, I think I have something to offer to help build bridges of communication between our two countries. And that's exactly what I'm going to do.
That is only a little bit of the video that Jamil put out. If you want to see the rest, just look for him on social media. He did a very good job, and I don't know if he's authorized to do this. I doubt Prime Minister Carney signed off on this, but hey, Jamil has got pretty exclusive access to J.D. Vance, the vice president. He may even get a meeting with Trump. You never know. Like, these guys are boys, and he's going to go down there and try and put country first. And that is very important because, frankly, I don't see a lot of people doing that right now. So good job, Jamil, and Godspeed. I hope you get this deal done. Friends, tomorrow I'm talking about the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about bets. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things on a Thursday episode of Scott Fox After 9. Have yourselves a great day. Keep your chin up. Enjoy the day. Treat your family well, kiss your kids goodnight, love the people you're with, and try and be present in the moment. Don't get caught up in the negativity of the news cycle right now. It's important to know what's going on, and that's why this pod is essential to listen to every day, but try to let it go when you need to let it go. Don't let it affect your mental health. I will see you back here in less than 24 hours, friends. I'll leave you, of course, with the sounds of Pat James and The Whole Truth. Hey now, have a great day.